Growing up, I always had a feeling I was different. I never looked at boys the way the other girls did, and I never had any real interest in boys at all. It wasn't until 8th grade that I realized what my feelings of being different meant. I started to notice that I looked at girls the way they looked at boys. I was scared. I didn't know anyone else like me and felt so alone to the point where I completely hid a big part of my life away. I pretended to like boys to avoid giving people more reasons to torment me. I felt so alone and terrified of what I was feeling. It wasn't until I found the TV show South of Nowhere that I started to feel somewhat better about what was happening inside my head. The show revolves around Spencer and her family as they move from a small town in Ohio to Los Angeles. She slowly begins to realize she's different when she starts falling in love with the girl, Ashley. Finally, there was someone who made me feel less alone. Sure, she's a character on a TV show, she's not real, but at the time, I had no one. She was the closest person I had that I could relate to. One of the episodes featured Spencer's mother Paula hiring a therapist to basically straighten Spencer out. This was the first encounter I had with conversion therapy, the use of psychotherapy and counseling to change homosexuality or bisexuality to heterosexuality. At first I thought nothing of this because it seemed like such a far-fetched idea, but as I got older and I saw how much negativity and outright hatred towards gays and lesbians there is, I began to wonder if what I saw actually happened. I pushed the thought from my head because I didn't want to believe things like that existed. I didn't want to believe the world I live in could be so cruel and disapproving, forcing a sickle on a person who's not even sick. It wasn't until I got to college and experienced more than just my small town views that I realized what a serious problem conversion therapy is, and just how much society buys into this false idea of a medical treatment. Leading off the premise that homosexuality is a mental illness or disease, conversion therapy was created to combat it, but all it did and continues to do is cause harm and medicalize hate. Since being gay was made a disease, it gave parents the right to expose their children to excessive, cruel treatments in order to make them something acceptable. No one questioned the methods care providers used because homosexuality was a disease, and doctors are meant to cure diseases. However, years after the American Psychological Association removed homosexuality as a disorder, people continue to believe it is something that can be cured. Gays and lesbians are still treated like they're diseased and can be changed back to what is considered right, but at what cost? Homosexuality is treated like it can be turned on and off with the flick of a switch like a light. What they fail to understand is that all this therapy does is create self-hatred and lower the person's self-worth. Conversion therapy instills words like sinful, disgusting, sick, and abomination in the minds of many young people, destroying any sense of real happiness and internal peace they might have. So far, only 2 states, California and New Jersey, have banned any and all forms of conversion therapy. England's health minister has only commented that conversion therapy is wrong but doesn't take any action to stop it. It baffles me how many people will say conversion therapy is immoral, out of bounds, and is harming young people, but then do nothing to prevent this injustice from continuing. Organizations like the National Association for Research and Therapy of Homosexuality, Exodus International, and various other religious organizations strive to remove teens from a lifestyle they call an abomination. The NARTH already plans to keep conversion therapy a resource for parents who aren't willing to accept and understand their child, even when it's clear the effects will be harmful. Exodus International was once the largest nonprofit organization to promote the use of conversion therapy, but in June 2013, it was announced that the organization was closing, finally admitting they were wrong and apologizing for the pain and suffering they caused. It confuses me further that people are so concerned with the freedom to marry that they forget and overlook this awful, sad, painful experience that young people across the nation are going through. I'm not saying stopping conversion therapy is the most important thing that needs to be taken care of and demedicalized, but it is part of a problem, so stopping it should be part of the overall solution in order to achieve equality. I always hear people talk about how medicine has advanced and how doctors and researchers are finding causes of new diseases and disorders, but what people don't talk about is how wrong it is to classify something as a disorder in order to fix what they think is broken. Instead of trying to accept their child, parents hand them over to these so-called therapists to make them better when there's nothing wrong with them. They're only human. The kids become sick with depression and anxiety, real disorders that get ignored because a parent saying their child is desperately ill is easier than coming to the realization that they are the ones who need treatment. I weep for these kids who have to suffer pain because their world doesn't accept them. I feel guilty because I never had to experience the heartache and disconnection from family. Only 2 states ban conversion therapy. Only 2 states stand up and fight to save these kids from a hell worse than what's outside their home or outside camp walls. They aren't strong enough and don't have the means to fight on their own. They're only human. We are all only human, and we all need a hand sometimes.